because like, I mean, maybe it's just because he's just trying to like maintain the grift or maintain the integrity of the show. I mean, the show is everything, right? And so, but he sounds very pro-feminist in this because he's still rattling off feminist tropes, mythology. Oh, it's a 77% or 77 cent on a dollar. The wage gap is a myth. And that wage gap happens as a result of choices that men and women make. You can go look at the studies in like Scandinavian countries, which are supposed to be the most gender neutral, gender like parity countries. And women and men have access to go and do whatever the fuck they want to do. They tend to like opt for careers and relationships that are very patriarchal, very let's say gender dimorphism, division of labor. They tend to opt for that. And so what comes down to it is this is like it's not endemic sexism. That's what this is pointing at. Every time you hear this, I'm going to put myself up real quick. Every time you hear the gender wage gap, anytime you hear people don't have any, there's no defense against selective services, by the way. You don't, ladies, you will die on that hill. You do not even try to come back don't even try to argue that. I've said it many times on this show. He'll talk about it later, so I'll dig into it a little bit more. But whenever you hear especially a man, whenever you hear a guy talk about, well, what about the gender wage gap? What about women's rights? What about reproductive rights? That is A, women are wonderful. B, sneaky fucker game. And then C, they don't even realize that they're doing it. They're repeating a meme that is a dead meme. That is, it's a zombie meme. It keeps coming back. It's already like the gender wage gap has been like, go, dude, here, don't believe me? Go on YouTube and type in gender wage gap myth debunked or whatever. You will find dozens and dozens of very well thought out, well reasoned statistics. I like it's going as far back as like 2016, how the gender wage gap is horseshit. Hell, even was it Dr. Steve Stewart Williams has said as much, right? It's just political, jargon is what it is. It's political jingoism. It's just it works in an election year. Oh, you poor ladies, we need to get your rights. Remember, I don't know if you guys remember this when I was on Dr. Phil, that one girl when they with the cue cards that were written on there was talking about like something about women's rights. Women need to fight for their rights. The first thing I said, because this is standard manosphere, right? What rights don't women have? Because I can tell you what rights men don't have that women do have, but you tell me what rights women don't have right now. Could not think of anything. So what happens is they rattle off the gender wage gap, which of course I threw out there and said that is a myth. And even Dr. Richard Reeves, who was like my opposition, backed me up on that. It's a lie. It's used for political, for jockeying for political position. That's all it is. So when you see a guy like Constantine rattling this off, it means he hasn't either done his homework or he's digging, he's really struggling, he's grasping at straws, trying to find a counter argument for all of this.
They have potentially what they have instead is they now don't have to pay for daycare and they can depend on somebody else's income, which is taking care of them. Oh, that's terrible. Oh my God. You get to stay at home and you don't have to do anything except raise your kid. Wow. And by the way, they're putting their kids on a bus almost every morning to go to a public school. They don't even have them for 8 hours out of the day most of the time. So like, how is this the most incredibly difficult job ever, or in some way requires them to have they're the ones who are privileged? You know, there's an old comedian who made this joke, and I agree with it. Any job you can do in your pajamas can't be that hard.
Bill Burr, favorite comedian of ours. But
okay, it can't be that hard.
He was joking, though, knowing Bill. And now that he's married with kids, I think his perspective's changed somewhat. But I guess, you know...
I'm married with kids.
Right. You're married. You watched your wife carry the baby or babies inside her for 9 months. Like, that's a big deal.
Sure.
So I guess that to me would be one example versus the hypothetical risk of once every 50 years you get drafted.
In a two-income household, it's a privilege that women get to stay at home. It's a privilege.
But we're not talking about staying at home. We're talking about carrying the child.
Yeah, but carrying the child has to be raised.
And most women in America then go back to work.
Yeah.
At a disadvantage, as we just
Well, that's not a disadvantage, though, right? They don't have to have children. You have to go out for a draft.
Well, women do have to have children for our society to reproduce.
Well, they're not.
Okay, so this is where both of them dropped the ball. And this is a good exchange, by the way. I'm finally some like substantive conversation about this. At the very least, this is why I said if it had to be Andrew Wilson to bring something red pill to trigonometry, so be it, right? But I think Andrew has posited questions and concepts to Constantine that he probably has never considered before. And so what does he do? He falls back on old tropes. With gender wage gap, being a mother is the hardest job in the universe, right? Unpaid labor, right? Whatever trendy, hashtag that's going on about motherhood is the hardest job in the world. It's funny how he knew the joke that it was Bill Burr that said that. But the thing is like he's running into questions that he doesn't like. Constantine doesn't want to answer, so he has to fall back on tropes, or he just simply does. He's never considered these things before. And I would think that like if you're going to, especially if you're going to go up against Andrew, you should like do your homework on Andrew to know what he was going to talk about. Especially if if you think you're going to get him, I'm going to get him on this. And I don't think this is necessarily a gotcha interview, but I don't think Constantine knew what was coming. And so the one thing that both of these guys, and maybe they do, maybe a little bit, they recognize this, but the difference that they're talking about is men do not have a choice when it comes to selective sex. Certainly in the United States, do not have a choice to ignore this, to ignore the draft, to ignore mandatory military conscription, essentially signing up for the potential that you might have to die for your country. I've said this on my show 4 weeks ago when I was talking about an unequal exchange of value. I even wrote a Substack about this recently as well. Go to my Substack, please. The link is right there. It's in the description. I wrote an article about this. In fact, the equal exchange you will never have an equal exchange of value. This would have been the conversation I would have had anyways. There will never be an equal exchange of value between men and women. Why? Because men are expected to die for women. Well, and I don't mean that the easiest example, of course, is selective services, conscription. But there is a male protector dynamic, an evolved male protector dynamic, that men will instinctually put themselves in front of bullets for women they don't even know. And we wouldn't be able to explain why we did it. This noble cause. I'm going to, I'll take the bullet for, the lake. Well, from an evolutionary psychology perspective, sperm is cheap and eggs are expensive. Women are the incubators of the next generation, and it would behoove a species, I think, especially a species that has to invest a lot in their offspring, for the man to be the sacrificial or people will say disposable, but I would say certainly the one that makes the sacrifices. And in this case, the ultimate sacrifice of dying. It is literally written into our DNA. It is written into our hard code. It is our firmware. It's what I've called this before. And somebody's going to steal this from me. I'm sure probably Orion Teravan already has, but it's the male protector dynamic, which is I'm going to you want to know why guys will, like the white knights, will automatically try to come to my lady's defense if some horrible person like Rollo Tomassi says, women are, here's some unflattering fact about women's nature, or Myron Gaines for that matter, right? If Myron and I, it could be in the most measured way, but if a guy hears that, it's incumbent upon him to come on, you guys are misogynist. Let me tell you a thing or two, right? What is the impulse that makes them want to do that? That's the male protector dynamic. When we see a woman cry, what do? Oh, are you okay? Hey, baby, don't worry. What happened? What did the mean guy do? What did your asshole boyfriend do? I'll sit on the phone for you and let you cry. when you see a woman crying, we have a different visceral reaction.